Well, good morning and welcome to Zen Live. It's a beautiful day in Blackstone. The sky is clear. It's been raining here for the past 3 days, I think. I don't know. But suddenly it's been cold. But suddenly it's clear, perfectly blue sky. The sun is bright. The birds are singing sharply. And we're going to pick up where we left off yesterday and kick this can down the road a little bit. If you recall, yesterday we were talking about the little shell frog, and that if you see the frog, you don't see the shell. In other words, if you see the frog, you're not interested in the shell. But if you see the shell, you don't see the frog. So this is a metaphor that we're going to work with again. And yesterday, before I go on, all of these talks are on my website. My blog is To Kill a Minotaur. So if you want to go back, pick up something, or if you miss something, you can always get it there or on my timeline. So they're all saved. And geez, I think I've been doing these now for over 70 days. I wonder how much can the internet hold? And I just had the thought too that it's kind of like I'm that each of us is a transmitter on the internet. I'm at I live in Blackstone, and for people who live here, they believe it's the center of the world. Well, each of us is the center of the universe. Like right now, I'm speaking as the center of the universe, and my speech is going out 360 degrees. Have friends in India, God knows where, but is all over the globe. Isn't that interesting? And each one of you is also the center of the universe, transmitting out if you were on an alien planet and you were transmitting, is anybody there? And you'd be sending out your energy and your consciousness, hoping for an echo coming back of somebody being there. Isn't that interesting? So we're all kind of alone, transmitting into the universe from each of us from the center of the universe. So each of us is the center. But are there many centers? No, there's one center, but each one of us is the center. And this is irony. This is the paradox that we're looking into. How can each of us be many centers, and yet we can all be the one? So the one and the many. How can the many be one? How can the one be many? You see, how can the shell be a shell, and how can it be a frog? And so that's where we left off yesterday. And we also were talking about the irony of the problem and the solution. So we really have to get to understand irony. It's been taking my whole life to understand irony, and I still don't. Because we're always discovering new irony. So anyway, we'll pick up here. And yesterday we did talk about my famous Gestalt picture of the old lady, the hag, and the young woman, and how the young woman can be a metaphor for pleasure and the old hag for pain. So when we look in the mirror and see a wrinkle, we have pain. And if we get some makeup and make the wrinkle go away, we have pleasure. And so we have this duality of pain and pleasure that, again, like the frog, if the shell is pain and the frog is pleasure, if I see the frog, I don't see the pain. If I see the pain, I don't see the frog. Yet it's one frog shell. It's a frog shell. So it is pain, pleasure, but we can only focus on one or the other. And because we can't see both together as one, we can't see the one and the many, we can't see them as one, we just kick the can of pleasure, chasing pleasure, and running from pain down the road. And that creates time. That creates our history, our whole life. Is this running, kicking, rolling, a rolling stone, chasing pleasure, running from pain, and yet they're one. Isn't that interesting? So let's pick up from there, because we're interested in seeing the one in the many. If we could just see the one, we would not be caught in the snare of duality and chasing pleasure and running from pain, chasing life, running from death, you see, chasing success, running from failure. All of this, you can just keep dividing it down. So let's take a look at another metaphor. And because you have to work with metaphor in order to grasp the whole. You can't see the whole if you're working with facts. You can't see the whole if you're working with the many. The many has to point to the one, and that's a metaphor. So here's another good one. This friend of mine gave me this, called a bad day cup. Bad day mug, right? You see, it's got, I don't know if you can tell, it's got a big bin in it, you know. Funny thing about this, she gave this to a potter to ask her if she could make her some more bad day cups, and the potter had a great deal of trouble trying to make an imperfect cup. She said this was the most difficult thing because her whole art had been the effort to make the perfect cup. A cup with no blemishes, with no pain, with no error. And here she had to intentionally make a bad cup, and she found it to be very difficult. Isn't that interesting? So anyway, the cup is kind of like a metaphor for the shell frog, but here we're going to use clay and the cup. Now when you go buy a cup or a mug at a craft show, you don't buy clay. You say, I'd like to have that clay over there. And then when you give it to somebody, you say, here's some clay. No, we focus on the cup, you see. And then we admire the cup. And this is admired because it's different from other cups. It's a new cup. And for a while, it becomes kind of exciting because it is separated now from the many, and it becomes the one. You see what happens right there? The many. If you look, God knows, my wife collects cups, and I'm constantly trying, well, where are we going to put this new cup? We have so many. Oh, but this is the one. So we all know, I don't know, everybody does this. I mean, you look at your house, I bet you've got 30 mugs, and you go to, and then when you go out, you know, to the stops, anywhere, everybody's trying to sell you a new mug, and as soon as you see that mug, even though you might have 100 mugs at home, that's the one. And you've got to buy that. That's the one, you see. And then after you have it for a while, it becomes the many, and you're looking for another, the one. My uncle did that with martini glasses. But anyway, I digress. So the idea here is that we never see the clay because the clay is indistinguishable. Yeah, it doesn't stand out unless you're looking for unless you're a potter and you go to a clay store, you say, oh, that's the one, give me that clay, you see. But then again, it's still the cup. So the cup is the form. The cup is the known. So let's talk about that for a minute. The known. When I was first encountered Krishnamurti, 1968, and I had an awakening by going to sleep listening to him, and ever since then, his teaching has been percolating in me like a Mr. Coffee percolator, and it just keeps dripping. You know, truth is a drip percolator. You know, it's not rapid all at once. It drips, and your whole life is like a Mr. Coffee, and you keep saying, you know, is the coffee ready yet? No, it's always dripping. You know, so it's always dripping something new, some new insight, some new awareness, some new metaphor, something. So we're always perking this truth once we get a Mr. Truth coffee pot. You see, and these have to be. Something has to awaken it in us, some event, some teaching, some person, some tragedy, some death, some accident. Stories, everyone is always telling a story of how this accident changed them, or this event, or whatever. Something has to break us up. Something has to heat us up. Something has to surprise us. Something has to awaken this truth coffee pot. And then you can get a cup all at once, and you say, I want some more of that, but oh no, now I got to wait for it to drip. See? Or you just get a drip, and you wait till you get a full cup. It might take years. It does take years. It can take a whole lifetime. It never stops dripping. Even the moment we die is another drip of the truth. So anyway, what is this Krishnamurti talks about the known all the time, freedom from the known. What in the world is that? Why do I want to be free from the known? I want to know stuff. Why do I want to be free from it? But the known is something. Either it's always going to be an idea. I don't know what this is. All I know is that it's a whiteboard marker. But it's plastic. And here again, this is like the cup. I don't know I don't know the clay. I know the cup. I know the form. And I know this because I've used it before. If you go to an Aboriginal tribe in Africa and say, what is this? They'd have no idea. It's like when your great-great-aunt dies and you go up in their attic and you start looking through the stuff they've stored and you come up with all these things and you say, what in the hell was this used for? It's kind of like a puzzle, you have no idea. Or if you go to an old farm, there'll be tools there, you have no idea what they are. So the known is what we store in our storehouse of memory, so it's the past. The known is the past. And then like this cup. Now the amusing thing about this cup is that it's labeled a bad cup. How odd. Now a bad cup, if you go buy a cup, you want to look for the best cup, and there's one of them, so you got a number of cups you want to buy, and this one's got a crack in it, it's a bad cup. So you don't buy that. But now this is an intentionally bad cup, and now it becomes the one I want. Isn't that interesting? You see? So, but the point is that all the known we divide into good and bad, perfect and imperfect. And of course we want the good and we avoid the bad. And the good is pleasurable and the bad is painful. So we want the good. It's pleasurable to have the best, the good. It's painful to have the bad. Somebody else will say, oh, look, you got a crack in that. And so the world, the known, is divided into good and bad, pleasure and pain, this and that. I and it is also two. You see, I'm talking to you as an it, and you're listening to me as an I, and I'm an it. That's two. So you get so all the known is form, and a form is a fact. This is a fact. You say it's a cup. That's a fact. But it's always two. This is called duality. And Buddha called it dukkha, D-U-K-K-H-A. And there is, it is not that the duality is suffering. Buddha didn't say that. So there's no suffering in duality. The suffering is the craving for the one. For instance, if I have all of my cups are good cups, and then someone shows me their bad day cup, I would say, where can I get one of those? So I would have a craving or a desire to get that cup, you see. And so then that craving would be for the one that will satisfy all of my cup searching. That would be the one that would end my collection of cups. I will no longer have to collect mugs if I could find the one mug that would end the suffering of seeking the one. My uncle never found the perfect martini glass. He was always, the next one would be it, you see. So this idea of the idea of the one that includes the many, and that one that includes the many would be the one that ends duality, because the one would include the two, you see. It's the one that is two, or the two that is one. So the question now is, well, where is this one? We're all looking for the one. When we're young, we're looking for Mr. Right or Mrs. Right, or, you know, the princess and the prince, the one. We're all looking for the one job, the one break, the one house, the perfect house, the one pet. Everything is the one, you see. We're all looking for the one. And then after we get it, it becomes the many. We're still looking for the one. So this search for the one, you see, is time, drives history. Take these Aboriginal tribes that existed for thousands of years without changing, weren't looking for the one. They had it. If you have the one, you don't have a need to be a seeker and to create history. You see, you don't have a need to create time. So craving creates time. It's tomorrow. I got to get to it, you see. So we're interested in what could the one possibly be? Now this was so, you know, the Western civilization was really awakened in the 1800s by the printing of the Upanishads and the teachings of the ancient yogis in India. That goes back thousands of years, the Vedas and the Upanishads, but particularly the Upanishads, because they were speaking, these prophets, these seers, these poets were speaking from the one, while the West is fascinated with the many. We just want to keep making better cups, trying to find the one that will be so perfect that we no longer have to make another one. But we never find that one. We don't find the Holy Grail. You know, we're always looking for it. But the Upanishads and the teachings of the East, Buddha and the teachings of the East, were speaking from a different place. They were speaking from the knower. The knower. Now, what in the hell is the knower, you see? Well, the knower is you. You know me. You know everything. The knower is the center of the cosmos, and each of us is that knower. Each of us is the many knowers, yet at the same time we're the one knower. There's only one knower. But that knower has no form. The knower is not in time. The knower can't be found, because if it's not in time and it's not in form, you can't find it. So the knower is that which knows the known. The knower is that which knows facts and form and the known. So I may say, it's clear outside today. We just assume I know it's clear outside. I don't have to say, I know it's clear outside today. But if I say it's clear outside today, it's assumed I know that. See? So the knower is just an assumption. I mean, it's so obvious that we don't even mention it, because if you mention it, it's a form. So you can't name the knower, because if you give it a name, it's back over here. It's a form. It's known. This is why our ego, our sense of self, gives us so much suffering, is because we put the self over here as an image. So the image is unknown. And now I have to keep protecting and improving my image, you see. So the image that I think I am is over here on this side, and the knower is asleep. So awakening is the awakening of the knower. That drip, drip, drip of Mr. Coffee Pot, the coffee pot of truth and light. Each drop is a drip of the knower, you see. Each drop of the knower drops into this plane of form and makes a hole in it of oneness. So whenever a drop of the knower falls into our self, our image, our me and the world is still two. A drop of the knower drops into that. It's an insight. Oh, and suddenly you see the whole of a situation. Suddenly you see the end of conflict in a situation. Suddenly you see the solution to a situation, just from one drop of the knower. So once that one drop hits us, I want to go to the source. It's like following the river to the mount, to the headwaters. I want to go to the source. In India, this is a big metaphor. Going to the source of the Ganges is a sacred place, you see. The Ganges comes out of God Shiva's head. So going to the source is a metaphor for going to the knower that I am. I am that. Thou art that, you see. But the that has no form, so you can't find it. It's not in time. It's timeless. So the big difficulty we have, you see, is that whenever we try to talk about the knower, we give it form and put it over on this side. So it eludes us. We can't catch it. There's no way to catch it in the known. We cannot know it as the known. You can't say, I know the knower. Can't even say I am the knower, because that puts it back over here. I'm something. So the knower is not something. And this is very difficult to see and understand, because we live in a world of form. In the Western civilization, in our culture, everything has form. If it doesn't have form, it doesn't exist. It's a materialistic world of form and facts. And it's made us very good at making stuff, but very poor at understanding who we are. So we're always seeking a better cup. You see, we're always looking for the one in form. And you can't find the one in form, because form is many. There is no one form that unites all the form. We keep trying to do that with our politics and our religion and all of that, you see. So the knower is the one. Thou art that. And the knower fulfills the commandment that you even find in the Bible with old Yahweh back at the beginning, that I am one without a second. Let there be one that has no second. Well, the only one that has no second is the knower. Because everything in form, every idea, every something has a second. Every form has, every cup is this cup, well then there's not this. So just as soon as I say this or this, I'm also saying not that. You see, so this is not other erasers, and this is not, the not is the whole rum here. I just pull this up out of this rum, which is the one, this one environment here. So you're looking at that. I have brought the attention of the knower to this so that this stands out from the rest of the room. But you're not aware of the board right now. Oh, now you are. But until I said, are you aware of are you aware of this? Well, now I am, you see. So as soon as I point to any form, I make that the one. And everything else falls back, you see, into this hole that we don't see. So we only see one thing at a time. Again, going back to my little frog that my daughter gave me, you see. Whatever the knower puts its light on makes that form the one. And as soon as I take my attention off of it, like a flashlight, and take it off of that, and look at this, now this is the one. Now where did this go? Now this is the one, you see. And as soon as I say, what about, oh, I haven't got anything else to hold up, I think you get the point that the knower makes the one out of form that has no second. So as soon as I say this, look at this, there is no second here. You're not looking at the window at the same, you know, we're looking at that, and then, or whatever. So the knower creates the known. And so out of the many, so it's constantly selecting the many to be the one, but what it selects is never the one. The knower is the one that holds all the many. And the knower has no form. It's kind of like the empty whole hub of a wheel that has nothing in it, but everything points to it. Or the black hole in a galaxy. Everything orbits around it, but there's nothing in it. So the knower is empty. And when we identify with the self in an image, where the empty knower is death, because the knower is the death of the self as a me. See, we think our self is the knower, but when the knower, the real knower awakes, this goes. It doesn't mean it doesn't mean that we can't still catch a bus and make stuff and do things. It just means that the center shifts from me as a thing to the knower that is no thing. And this is the earthquake that shakes your life when this shift begins to happen. And it happens one drip at a time, or maybe you get a whole cup of the knower at once. A few get the whole coffee pot, and they're called a Buddha or a Christ. Anyway, thank you for coming in this morning, and I'll see you this evening at martini time.